Point number one today. Has Newcastle's bubble burst? They've fallen out of the top four. They're sitting at fifth. They've only had 2 losses on the season, but both of those went to Liverpool, and now it looks like they may have some troubles.
Yeah, they do. I don't think the bubble's burst. And every year there's one club that sort of threatens the top 4 that's not used to being there. And then they drop away. And it could be Newcastle's season, this. But I've got a feeling that they're just going through a little blip, just like everybody else seems to be doing. It seems to be changing weekly, this. And they've got the quality in the team, I think, to get themselves out of it. They've got goals. I know they're struggling for goals right now. That's the issue. And they've drawn a lot of games. But I don't think they're going to fall away. I think the spirit's still good in the team, in the camp, which is a great sign. But they got the goal scorers, and I think, like I say, I think everyone else has had a little blip. I think Newcastle is going through a blip, and I can see him getting back out of it and turning things around again. So I think it's temporary, this one.
I think that we talked about Newcastle a few weeks ago of how have they improved so much under Eddie Howe. And my big question that I had for them for the second half of the season is where the goal is going to come from, because you can't count on Almiron to finish with 16 goals on the season, 17 goals in the season. He's sitting on 6, right? Or it's 10 right now. He had 6 in the month of October alone, and now he's had 1 goal in 7 matches. And so now that he's kind of back down to earth, if you look at his career, 1 season in Atlanta in the MLS did he have 12 goals. Otherwise, he's never had double-digit goals in any other season but this one. So I look at Almiron and say the goals have to come from somewhere else. So Callum Wilson, Joe Linton, whoever it might be, other people are going to have to score because he was the guy that provided the majority of the firepower in the attacking third for Newcastle that allowed them to win so many matches. Now, the one thing they don't do is, my gosh, they don't go away, right? So even in these matches where they're not able to finish, they're dominating time of possession. They're dominating. If you look at the number of shots that they have, the shots are there. The shots on target are there. Time of possession is there. They just can't seem to finish. And I wonder who it's going to be for this team that can help them finish. Because at the end of the day, yes, they're 5th, but and they're winless in their last 4, but they have a match at hand against Spurs, right? They're barely outside of that top 4. So they just have to figure out somebody else besides Almiron that can score. And I think that they'll be okay. Now, the question is, who's that going to be? Because there's half the league right now that doesn't know who's going to be able to finish for them when they make plays and get the ball into the penalty area.
Yeah, that's true. And Newcastle, I was going to say, like many teams, they've been having to share the goals around a little bit. Almiron was carrying it for a while, but Sam Maximan's back in the team now after injury. Longstaff's been chipping in with a couple. Wilson's always good for a goal or 2. So it looks like they're going to have to share him around, and hopefully Almiron gets back at it. But yeah, I think Newcastle are always going to struggle as the season went on through the lack of depth of squad as well. The big boys always come good because of the depth of the squad. Things sort of get back to normal as the season wears on, and Newcastle may drop away a little bit because of this, because of the quality and the depth of the squad. But yeah, they've got the guys who can put the ball in the back of the net. They have been sharing it around, and that's the big problem, though. Is everyone needs a number 9, a prolific number 9, and they just don't have one.
If I told you 3 years ago, though, that at this point in the season, Newcastle would be 5th right now on the table and disappointed about it, you'd look at it and just say, yeah, really. I mean, just look how far they've come. But I do think that, let's say they finish 5th, they're in the Europa League. That's a disappointing finish for Newcastle at this point, isn't it?
Perhaps at this point, but you've got to say, like, if you think of last season, they survived by the skin of their teeth. If you'd have offered the Newcastle fans this at the end of last year or the start of this year, they'd have absolutely snatched your hand off for it. So I think they'll be keeping things in perspective. It's a great fan base up in Newcastle. They're called Geordies. If you're from Newcastle, you're a Geordie. And the fan base is fanatical. And after years and years of tearing their hair out because of Mike Ashley, the previous owner, finally they've got something to cheer about. And I don't think, quite honestly, if they finish 6th and the season that they've had, I think they'll be quite happy, to be honest with you.